I am so nervous.
Hold on. Check my hair.
Oh no.
I'm a her. And we live. We'll do it live! All right.
We're gonna do this on camera? We're gonna do this on camera.
You just pass it around like whoever's talking holds the plant.
Yes. What's up, my friends? I'm joined once again by the one and only Shaun Andersen.
How's it going, everyone?
And we're gonna answer some more questions because we had so many from last time, we didn't address them all.
Yeah, there was a lot of them, so we'll just keep making these videos until you guys run out of questions.
First question is addressed to Shaun Andersen.
Oh no.
How can I be as cool as you?
See guys, being as cool as me takes about 24 years of experience. It's something I've been working since I was born to crack the code on, and I figured it out, and the secret to it is... And then we cut to a sponsor. Like commercial break.
When do you start to learn suturing?
Ooh, well, at least for me, even though I was like preclinical and just doing like didactics, we did have some like labs on suturing. They were kind of just like voluntary. If I wanted to show up, we could do that. And I went to probably like 2 or 3, and I was given like a suture kit as well, which I haven't opened. I've had it for several months now, and I have not
Clearly,
touched it.
he's not prioritizing something surgical in his future.
Not at all. I told myself, I was like, yeah, I'm totally gonna practice like suturing like half an hour a week, and it's been months and I haven't opened it. But yeah, what about you? When did you start practicing?
Actually during my 3rd year.
Oh, so when you were going into clinicals, that's when you first ever tried?
Yeah, because my strategy when I was doing clinicals was I was leaning towards surgery, so I did it 3rd. So first was internal medicine, then it was a combination of, I believe, neurology and pediatrics.
Gotcha.
And then surgery, and then the last block was psych and OB-GYN, I think. Because surgery was 3rd, I had all these proceedings. I had like 6 months ahead of surgery to practice. Yeah, I went really down the rabbit hole. I like obsessed about it. I have some kits over there that you can see.
Oh yeah.
And I went really ham, but it's not something that you necessarily need to spread out. Like,
that's what I was gonna ask. Like, is it something you have to start preclinical, or like if you know you're gonna do surgery in like a month, could you start?
I think so. If you spent a few hours every week for a month, like you'd be really good.
When you're actually like in your rotations, when it comes to suturing, how often did you get to do it? Were you just like closing up, like doing the last suture of a procedure, or?
This is like a progression, right? When you first start as a 3rd year, at the beginning, all you're doing is retracting. You're not doing much else.
Okay.
and then when they see that you are more comfortable, you're more capable, you have this I mean, it's very low level of competency, then they start giving you more and more stuff to do. So I would say, like, it depends on the student and the relationship you have with your attending, because as a 3rd year, were there times that I was helping close incisions? Yes, but it wasn't common. It got more common in 4th year, for sure.
Did it like have anything to do with like, if you wanted to do surgery as a residency, did it look good if you looked like you knew how to suture, or did it not really matter?
Yeah, like if they know that you're interested in surgery, then clearly you care more about it, and you like, it's exciting to do things more than just retracting.
Yeah, that's fair.
So they're gonna give you stuff to do, but then if you f it up and you have no idea what you're doing because you didn't practice at home, then they're like, okay, yeah, this guy, no bueno.
Yeah, not a good letter.
And then they don't give you more stuff to do. So a lot of it is a matter of you making them comfortable to trust you. So 3rd year, you still have some didactics between your clinical rotations. When I'm sitting there, I have like my water bottle on the table, like one of those big, they have like a loop on it, right? I would have my ties, my silk ties, and I would just practice doing one-handed throws with one hand, then with the other hand, and then 2-handed throws with alternating what each hand is doing. Doing that made me much more comfortable tying, because after retracting, you generally go to suctioning and then tying knots. And then once you're good at tying knots, like, okay, this guy knows what he's doing, then they'll allow you to do suture.
Gotcha. So I shouldn't feel bad about the fact that I haven't really practiced.
Oh no.
I'm
just giving you a hard time. How's Chewy?
Chewy's great. He's the best dog I could ever ask for, and his birthday's this week.
Oh.
I totally forgot. His first birthday is in like 5 days.
How's he celebrating?
We'll probably get him and his brother, because him and his brother are the same age. We'll get them like cakes and stuff, like pup cakes. Yeah, it's gonna be sick. You can come if you want. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
Have a whole party.
What made you and Shaun Andersen meet?
Ooh. This is actually, I think I technically made the first move. I think I initiated a little bit.
Slid into those DMs?
I slid into your comments, I think. There was a video you did with someone at my school. It was like day in the life of a 4th year student.
Oh yeah, Diane.
Diane, yeah. And I saw the video, and I was actually watching the video. I was like, oh, this looks familiar. I was like, wait, that's UMC. Oh, that's UNLV. Oh, that's Diane. I know who that is. And then I just kind of commented. I was like, oh, like this is so cool. This is at my school. And I was still a first year. And so I was like, oh, it's cool to see a day in the life of a fourth year at my school because I'll be doing that one day. And then I think you replied. You're like, want to do a day in the life or something? I don't know. You said like message me on Instagram or something like that. Do you remember that?
Not really, but that's funny because we still haven't done a day in the life.
No, we still haven't done it at all. We've actually done several videos together now.
Well, we talked about it. The reason we haven't done it is because of COVID. It's just like not as exciting to film you.
It's hard, yeah. You're just gonna fall. Like you're gonna be sitting in my apartment, just like filming me sitting at my desk for like the whole day. So it's a little bit tough. But that's kind of how we met. And then even before that, or like right after that, you sponsored I think a video on my channel. And then we were on the phone
with Mem, right?
With Mem, yeah. You sponsored a video on my channel, and then we kind of just got on the topic. We're like, oh, like you live in Vegas. Oh, we both live in Vegas. And then we kind of just got coffee one day, and now look at us.
And then I dragged you to a Cars and Coffee meet after that.
Yeah, he's like, want to go to Cars and Coffee? I'm like, yeah, I don't know anything about cars. You're like, it's okay. And I'm like, I was there, and I was like, wow, these are some cool cars. And you're like, oh, that's a Subaru 9000. So I don't even know. You're like pointing out every car.
He was a great sport coming to Cars and Coffee, even though it probably wasn't like the first thing on his list. So
no, it was a lot of fun.
It was a good time though.
Yeah, super fun.
Appreciate that. Any extra tips for pre-meds regarding extracurriculars? Need some dressing for my app.
This is actually a really good one. And I get asked about this a lot. I'm sure you get comments about extracurriculars a lot. Extracurriculars are kind of like just as important as the rest of your application. You know, of course, you're going to have your GPA, your MCAT, all that kind of stuff. But the thing that like makes you look different than the other applicants are your extracurriculars, because everyone you're applying with probably has a decent GPA, a decent MCAT score. You know, that's not really what's going to set you that much apart. But then the extracurriculars are like really something that no one else can.
So what was yours?
So mine, I had a few like, you know, volunteer work, all that kind of stuff. My main extracurricular for me was I used to be like an acrobat, like perform in shows. I would fly to the East Coast and like
I mean, you still do crazy stuff on your Instagram.
I still do it, but a little less often, obviously now. Getting older, joints are weak.
God, this guy
arthritis.
In his 20s. Early 20s.
It's so bad. But it's still something I like maintained for years since I was like 14. And I put it on my application. During my interview at the school I'm at now, at UNLV, and I still think it was my best interview so far.
Did you do a backflip in your suit?
I did not. I was actually asked if I could during the interview, and I was like, I could. We don't have to do it. But you know, the guy who interviewed me, his kids were really into trampolines. Like he was actually looking for a new trampoline, and so he was like, yeah, I saw on your application you like do like flips and all that kind of stuff. Like, tell me about that. And for 45 minutes, that's like mainly what we talked about. And when we left the interview, he actually wrote a brand of trampoline with pen on his arm, like in the interview. And then when I was leaving the school, he kind of like stopped me and was like, I'm gonna go check this out when I get home tonight. Cause again, him and his family were in the market for a trampoline.
So you're making a connection there, which is very important.
Not to be like overly confident, but when I walked away from that interview, I felt really good. And he didn't ask me about anything on my application that was like classes or my MCAT. He was just really interested in that because to him that was unique. So that's kind of like
you gotta put yourself in the shoes of the AdCom, right? And if they're going through dozens and dozens, hundreds of applicants,
so many,
then okay, cool, you can study well, you got good scores, you've done the clinical volunteering, etc. They want someone who's interesting, someone that's like memorable, someone that they want at their program.
Like just like diversity. They want like a range of like not only like people, but like also like the personalities and the hobbies, because when you treat patients, like it's a very diverse population.
And diversity isn't just like your gender or color of your skin. It's also the things that you do.
The things that you do, yeah. And the traits that you can take away from these hobbies, I think, are just as important as the hobbies themselves. And they don't have to be medical. That's like the big thing that people fall into.
Yeah, don't have to be medical. Like mine was, I was on a dance team for 4 years in college.
Really?
And
wait, hold on. I did not know this at all. Dance team?
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Whoa.
And that, like, at every program I went to, because that was a big part of my college experience and I was in a leadership position, they all wanted to talk about it. And it was like the thing that made me more memorable. And like every interviewer loved talking about it. And they would always ask me, oh, can you show us some moves? Like, haha, no.
that was my first question too. We're gonna have to follow this up in another video where we like maybe go to the club or something, because I actually have to see this now.
The other thing I want to say though is a lot of us focus on extracurriculars in terms of, hey, what's gonna help my medical school application look better? But like Shaun was saying, that's a very short-term way of thinking about it. If you look at it from a bigger picture, long-term mindset, then you realize that you should be pursuing things that are genuinely interesting to you because you're gonna push yourself a lot harder. You're gonna learn skills, you're gonna learn leadership, you're gonna learn things that will serve you for the rest of your life, not just getting into medical school. So I'm glad I was on a dance team because now I can boogie.
Yeah. That's so good. I actually did not know that.
What's your experience like living in Las Vegas? So Shaun, born and raised in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I've been living here for a little bit over 2 years. Why don't you tell me? I mean, you're the expert.
I mean, Vegas has been a great city to live in. It's been great to watch it grow. I remember when the population was like 1 million, and now it's like what, like over 3, and now we have like 2 sports teams and like people from California moving here. It's great.
Why do Las Vegas locals hate Californians that move to Vegas like me?
I think because we're afraid of the cost of everything going up, the housing market.
It's already been happening. Yep.
It's happening.
True that.
It is happening. But Vegas is a great city to live in. I think we both agree that it's like a huge like cultural like melting pot. There's like so many like good restaurants. It's also a really good place to be based out of, and I'm pretty sure that's why you kind of came here too, right? Like in terms of like, you know, if you're gonna live in one place but want to travel to other places, Vegas is.
That was part of it. It was mostly because I want to be a Chippendales dancer, but that was part of it.
But that too, for a lesser reason, yeah. But yeah, it's super easy. If you want to go to California, it's 5 hours that way. If you want to go to Arizona, it's 5 hours that way. If you want to go to Utah, it's 2 hours that way, right? Like it's like super easy to like travel out of here. The weather's nice. We don't really have snow, so.
Food is really good here. I would say it's the same level as LA in a lot of ways. Really fantastic food. Cheap cost of living, no state income tax, which is nice.
Yeah, it's super nice.
I personally love the heat, much more so than the cold. So also dry heat is not nearly as bad as people think. I was in New York in July and it was like 90s and humid, and that's disgusting. Whereas being in Vegas, 110, really dry, not so bad. Things I miss about California, I do miss the beach. I go to San Diego every like 3 months. I'm actually going to San Diego Monday, 2 days.
Nice.
Yeah, so I do miss some things about California. But yeah, overall, a great place to live. Tell me the hardest part. I think what they meant is like the hardest part of medical training. So pre-med, medical school, residency.
It's almost funny that like every time you think you're at like the hardest part, once you kind of get past it and then you look back on it, you're like,
oh, it was so easy.
Like, oh, what was I worried about? But there's always, you know, you should never like talk yourself out of it.
I think there's 2 things going on. Part of it is it generally gets a little bit harder as you go on. So part of it is true, but there's some other like recency bias, primacy bias where
I mean, it's just
people undervalue how tough it was back then because like selective memory.
Be like, oh yeah, like pre-med I had so much time. Like, dude,
when I was a pre-med, I felt like I was working pretty hard.
Yeah.
And sure, when I was in medical school, I was like,
dude, I had so much free time.
And then when I was in residency, I was
like, dude, medical school was so easy.
Yeah.
So every stage seems easier. So it's like, I kind of need to control for that bias to try to give more accurate feedback to the viewers.
Yeah. But maybe that's just like growth happening. You know, if you look back and you're like, oh, maybe that wasn't so bad. Like maybe that's also growth. Like you're growing, you're better able to handle stress. That's to the point where like what is perceived as hard now is potentially more stressful. But I don't know. There's a lot of hard things about this entire thing.
So far for you?
So far for me, honestly, is just time management. Like we talked about this in the last video, and even though I feel like I'm much better at time management than I once was, that will always be the limiting factor, right? Because I don't know if you agree with this, but nothing you learn in medical school is like necessarily so hard that you can't understand it.
It's more just volume.
It's more volume.
Conceptually.
Yeah, and so that's the hard thing about med school. Like if all we had to do was study, like it wouldn't be that bad, but it's like everything else you have to do around being a medical student that leads up to like the, you know, 60 hours a week of work that you're doing as a medical student is like, that's what's hard, right? Like the meetings, the research, classes, you know, all that kind of stuff together. But if all I had to do was tell you like what to treat this with or like the mechanism of this drug, like realistically you could learn those, you know, you could look at it and remember.
Yeah, because a lot of medical school is just memorization.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part of med school, I was more thinking of like a stage in training. And for me, it was my sub-Is during my 4th year because at certain programs, especially in surgery, they really want to see what you're made of. And I remember there's a week we were on triple call. So plastic surgery call, hand call, face call. And there were several days where I was in the hospital 19 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
And back then, I didn't prioritize sleep as much as I do now. I mean, I don't think I really could have done anything in those situations to get more sleep. If you're working 19 hours, you can't really sleep much anyways.
Yeah.
That was a struggle. Going to the efficiency and just like time management, One thing that comes up for me is like the intensity that comes with that. Like you need to sustain a very high level of intensity if you want to perform at your best and be doing research and be doing, you know, exercising and whatnot. And I actually find it easier when you are surrounded by other classmates doing the same thing. Like if you find a close medical school buddy who's similarly motivated, not everyone wants to be hardcore, but if you and a friend or maybe a couple friends want to be hardcore, then you guys can kind of amp each other up and motivate each other. And that kind of sets a new baseline, a new normal for you.
Oh, 100%. You just saw me get off the phone with one of my classmates and we were talking about like some research that we're doing and we're just like on the same wavelength about pretty much everything. We study on the same schedule, same resources, same timeline. Like we both have this expectation that we're gonna have gone through like certain resources at the same time, practice questions, same time. We're on a lot of the same research projects together. And so it's like facilitated.
That's a really important thing too. If you do research together, you can really crank up the number of publications you can get.
Oh yeah, that's the plan. That is like 100% the plan. And it's nice because there's that social facilitation where it's like, I have to work hard to make this 2-person group dynamic as best as it can be. So it does help a lot. Like you said, it sets a baseline that like, if I was studying on my own, the baseline would probably be like lower because it'd be more on me and like the consequences would be on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I also don't want to say that having a higher baseline is something that you need to do for the rest of your life. Sometimes people shy away from it, like, oh, I want to enjoy my life. I don't need to be so hardcore.
Yeah.
I get that. I definitely am not nearly as hardcore as I was before. I am sleeping close to 8 hours every single night without fail.
Nice.
I work out like 2 hours a day. Like the amount of time I spend not doing traditionally productive things is much higher now. That's because like it's a season in your life, things change. So don't fret about like, hey, oh my God, the next 6 months, the next 1 or 2 years are gonna be really challenging. Get really good at that, build up those skills so that when you do wanna relax and dial things back down, you can still have those productivity tactics. I feel like I'm still pretty good with time management, even if I'm not dialing it up to 100, right? I can still get a lot of things done in just a few hours that I wouldn't have been able to do unless I first learned those things in med school, pushing my limits.
Yeah, totally agree.
What is one new thing you're learning that you're excited about?
Well, lately I've had a lot of free time, so a new thing I've started to pick up is running. Like, I like learning to get better at running. So even though
there's a lot more technique to it than it seems, right?
Oh, way more. But I've always historically been pretty bad. And there's this facade over me that like, because I do things like acrobatics, I'm a good runner. When if you think about it, acrobatics are really anaerobic and like really quick bursts of energy. But running, I could barely run like a quarter mile without like getting like the abdominal stitches and then like back pain and like really short of breath.
Well, isn't that just because you're running too hard and you're not pacing yourself?
I think it's poor conditioning, not really doing it. And I think also maybe just like bodily wear and tear from like the acrobatics and stuff.
You know what has low impact and is also cardio and is also really fun?
Can't be cycling.
I have my bicycle in the studio.
Yeah, it's like just pointing at it. Yeah, well actually I do like it, but I wanted to run just because it's almost something I was always really bad at and wanted to prove to myself that I could get good at it.
I totally get that.
Yeah, so in about 5 weeks, I actually went from barely being able to run a quarter mile to I ran 7 miles. Yeah, it's kind of been like
that's a huge jump.
Yeah, and it's kind of exponential, I would say. Like once you kind of like, the gains I think were pretty fast. I think there might be studies on this about like the first 6 weeks of exercise, you have like the most increase in gains and then it kind of levels out after, something like that. But basically, I was training like every single day and I got better. And I signed up for the Turkey Trot, which is a 12K. So that kind of gave me like a motivation. And then I'm signed up for a marathon in April of next year. So it's kind of like I gave myself these like goals.
You have like stepwise progressions where it's, that's awesome, man.
So that's what I'm excited about right now. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. What about you?
So I feel like my personality is such that I always am trying to like I'm obsessing about one thing at a time. So earlier this year was tea. If you guys follow me on Instagram,
I remember this. Yeah,
a lot of tea. I still do tea every day. I just don't post about it on Instagram as much. So related to that, I've been working on my car a lot more. And the first time I worked on my car and like did oil change, brake fluid flush, just basic maintenance things, that was before starting residency.
Oh.
And once I started residency, my co-resident, he was like, Kevin, you gotta stop doing that. I'm like, what's the matter? He's like, these things you got, these hands, if you crush them, if you crush a finger, some things happen when you're working on a car, then there goes your whole livelihood.
That's true.
And I was like, oh, good point. So I completely stopped, didn't do anything else. And now I'm just getting back into it. I got these new quick jacks, lift and lower my car really quickly, and I'm doing oil changes and brakes. And it's just like, it's rewarding. It's very simple. And I used to think that I should just outsource it and save the time and just, pay someone else to do it. but I find myself having fun.
You feel like accomplished too, because you know you can do that rather than paying someone else, for example, to do it.
Yeah, and one other thing. So at the last track day 2 weeks ago, one of my calipers seized up. So in each wheel you have 2 brake pads. And one of the brake pads was seized up against the rotor and went down to metal. So not a safe situation because it was like metal scraping on metal. And I'm not sure if that was due to a faulty install, because I didn't install it, someone else did. And I'm not saying that they necessarily did something wrong, but if I do it myself and I'm following the best principles and I'm greasing the calipers and I'm cleaning it, and I can trust that I'm gonna do a thorough, good job.
Yeah.
So part of it is also like just safety in a way.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if you're tracking it, you're pushing your car to the limit and things break.
All right, guys, so that was it for this Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We're kind of just choosing topics that you guys ask us about, whether it's in the comments or on Instagram. So definitely give us ideas. We'll make future videos. We kind of enjoy doing this because it's just
If you want to
fun
see this
chat.
guy more on this channel, give this video a thumbs up. And if you do not, give it a thumbs down.
No, still give it a thumbs up, but, like, but keep it to yourself.
All right, guys, much love. See you in the next one.
Later, guys.
Woo-hoo!